Secular Humanist Association welcomes everyone who's interested in exploring ideas from the humanist, non-religious perspective.
For me, secular humanism is a philosophy for living and learning. Secular humanists use science and reason to understand the universe and solve human problems.
As a non-religious person, I cannot accept supernatural answers to life's questions. Secular humanists confine their search for the truth to the natural world.
Some of my highest goals in life are expressed in human secularism. To enjoy life in the here and now, and to strive for moral excellence.
We believe in striving for the best and noblest that is possible in human beings.
Welcome to our show. I'm Harry Greenberger, the president of New Orleans Secular Humanist Association and the host for this program. For several of our recent programs, we've introduced you to some of our local secular humanists so that you, our viewers, can appreciate the variety of lifestyles and personalities which exist within our group as in the society at large. Today, we proudly present three more of our New Orleans secular humanists who will tell you something about who they are. With us today are Francesco Alecha, Connie Gordon, and Dave Schultz. And Francesco, we're going to let you lead off. Tell us something about who you are and maybe in relationship to your being a secular humanist.
Well, I was born in Spain and I was raised in Cuba. Since my parents were Catholic, as most children are, they grow up with the same religion as their parents, force of habit. And my first, regarding religion, my first questions about religion was when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I had a good Jewish friend who had comic books, a great collection of comic books, and I would go to his house, and we'd play together, have great fun times. And I asked one time I asked my priest, my Roman Catholic priest, if Jews would go to heaven, and he said, no, only Roman Catholics can go to heaven. And I thought that was very unfair. I thought that that was more a problem of a religion than it was a problem of a heaven or a hell. At the time, and I remember this clearly, I thought, I can design a better religion than this.
You were not rejecting the supernatural or the God, you were rejecting religion. Catholicism. Right?
Yes. There are two, regarding religion, people confuse God and religion. Usually they mix it together, but those are two separate questions, whether there is a God and which religion is the true religion. Since many of them claim that they are, through their sacred writings, they're the true religion, we know that they can all be right. And so that was my first questioning about religion. The question about God is a separate theological, separate philosophical question, whether there's a God or not. But I kind of understood, since it's a natural human tendency to want to live forever, even though you're going to die. And so there is security in believing that you're going to live forever, and that there's a place after this world where all the injustices of this world will be righted by supreme.
That can be a great consolation to know that.
It is, yes. And I can understand why people would choose to want to believe in that. I continued going with my Catholic education, which is an excellent education. The Marist brothers in Cuba, and then here in New Orleans at Holy Cross, which is the same brothers as the Notre Dame brothers. And the question of morality and religion then followed after that. And I did a lot of study and research and found that in other countries that are less religious, they also have less crime. So there wasn't.
But the religious teaching was saying that we can tell you what is moral and what is right, and you have to accept our rules of morality. Mm-hmm. And you found that there were other ways to come up with morality?
Yes, reasonable ways. The concept of what is right and wrong is universal about stealing and murdering and lying, and that precedes any of the religions, and it can be rationally defined and described as something that improves the happiness in society.
Yes, and you found that more to your thinking than having the laws prescribed from up above.
Yes, especially since the laws that I grew up with didn't make very much sense, worshiping idols and worshiping a Roman Catholic God on a Sunday, and a number of other religions that would have similarly unusual prescriptions for a moral life.
Well, you have no hesitancy in saying that you are a moral person without religion.
Yes, yes, and especially being religious, of course, doesn't. I've noticed no improvement in moral behavior among religious people versus rational, ethical people.
They're not necessarily any worse, but they are also not necessarily any better. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Well, we'll get back to you, but Connie, tell us something about who you are.
Well, I've lived in the New Orleans area now for about 20 years, and I didn't know I was a secular humanist until I first saw this an article about you in the Times-Picayune when this group was first started. But I was raised in South Texas in a German Texan family, and everyone was Lutheran, and so I was Lutheran. And there was not ever any talk about religion in the house. It was just, you went to church every Sunday, and children went to Sunday school, and that's just the way it was. But I remember having my first serious doubts about the whole thing, probably when I was in my mid to late teens, and I remember learning about the solar system and seeing pictures of the Earth revolving around the sun, and realizing for the first time that there really was no up and down in space. And so then the concept of heaven being up there and hell being down there was a little weird.
So science interfered with your religion?
Well, yeah, okay. A little bit. But then I guess it was an evolutionary process for me. It wasn't until my early to mid-20s that I really had serious doubts, and that's when I started reading a lot of anthropology and ancient history and that sort of thing, and that's when I realized, like Francisco did, that there are all these other religions in the world. How can they be wrong and we be right, and all of that kind of thing. And then there are all of the injustices in the world and the horrible things that happen to people in faraway primitive places, famine, pestilence, and all of that. What did those people do to deserve that? And I thought, if there's a God, he certainly isn't very effective. And then I took a comparative religion course in college, and that nailed it for me. I knew then, none of them are the right ones.
You're saying that the more you learned about religion, the less you found it to be
right.
Reasonable and acceptable.
That's right. And several years ago, I came across this quote from the author Sam Harris, and it sums up the way I feel. I think, or I have evolved to feel. And he says, "The truth is, there is not a person on earth who has a good reason to believe that Jesus rose from the dead or that Muhammad spoke to the angel Gabriel in a cave and yet billions of people claim to be certain about such things. As a result, Iron Age ideas about everything high and low, sex, cosmology, gender equality, immortal souls, the end of the world, the validity of prophecy, etc., continue to divide our world and subvert our national discourse. And that's it for me. That's it in a nutshell.
You're saying that these religions are dividing our world.
They are divisive.
And there are, even at this date, there are religious wars going on between one religion and another.
And the biggest puzzle to me is how well-educated, thinking people can still follow blindly.
Yes. Do you have any explanation for that?
No.
Well, maybe Dave does. Dave, tell us something about yourself.
I don't know that I can explain the situation as it exists, but I'm a biologist. I teach biology at Nichols State University. I teach introductory biology and biology of fishes, and I teach evolution and ecology. And my field of specialty is fish evolutionary ecology. What brought me to this profession was, I think, an interest in living things from a very young age. My earliest memories are of catching fish by hand in a ditch behind my grandmother's house, and but I also tell people I'm the product of Sputnik.
Explain that.
I was entering kindergarten in 1960. And of course, the space race was on at that point, and there was a great infusion of science into the public schools. And I remember probably second or third grade seeing in the Weekly Reader on the front page at the bottom a panel explaining evolution by natural selection.
You're dating yourself when you know the Weekly Reader.
That's well.
Go ahead.
So I remained interested in science and living things all through high school and as an undergraduate, and probably what really put me on the track to becoming an evolutionary biologist was reading Richard Dawkins' The Selfish Gene in 1977, 1978. Within a year after it was published, I read it along with a group of graduate students and professors, and we discussed it. And it was amazingly enlightening to me that we could understand things like our aging and death as part of a natural process that actually is a inevitable thing for living things. That's
a depressing thought, isn't it?
Well, I guess it can be depressing, but I think it's better to understand the basis for it than to make up stories about it. So, and that has brought me to where I am in my profession. Going along with that was really a desire for all of society to be applying science and reason more. And I saw a real need for that, especially when I was in graduate school. I saw so much sort of New Age philosophy coming into society at that point, and I started researching such things, and I became a subscriber to the Skeptical Inquirer, a publication of the Council for Secular Humanism, and then I moved from there to Free Inquiry, their principal publication, and that really opened the world of secular humanism to me. I moved to Louisiana in 1992, and I looked for a local chapter. Every month when I would open that Free Inquiry, I'd look to see if there was a list of anything new in Louisiana. And so because I thought the Council for Secular Humanism was really a voice of reason in the world, and it was something that I really would like to be part of, but in Louisiana we didn't have an option. And then NOSHA came along. I was invited to attend the organizing meeting with NOSHA, as you were.
Yes, and we started with like
and that really was, I think,
people.
A seminal event for New Orleans. It really, we've come a long way since then, and we've, well,
and nothing you have learned since then has dissuaded you from your views.
No, in fact, I see the whole idea of living without religion as a growing idea, and more people are coming out, and more people are feeling like they're not alone in their.
Well, I have a question for you. You're teaching evolutionary biology in a public university in the state of Louisiana, which may not be popular with everyone. Are you ostracized for doing that in any way?
Not that I'm aware of. I know when I say that I teach evolution, some people raise their eyebrows. I actually, the year before I was hired, the Board of Regents of the state of Louisiana, as in a review of the biology program at Nicholls State University, they said, you have one glaring omission. You don't have a course in evolution. So it was the Board of Regents of the state of Louisiana that is the reason that I teach evolution at Nicholls State.
As to your knowledge, is that Board of Regents still that open-minded, or have they regressed?
Well, no, I don't think they've regressed. It was an outside review that was the reason that Nicholls changed its program. It was a panel of biologists from across the nation. So basically, it brought my school into line with what the rest of the country was doing.
Now, your students who come into your evolutionary courses, are they all prepared to accept the concept, or do they have to be persuaded?
I think many of them are skeptical on coming into the class. I think a lot of them leave quite a bit less skeptical after the evidence has been laid out for them, and that's a large part of the course, is not only how to not only just the history of evolution, but the evidence for it from so many fields. And so it isn't just the biologists, it's the geologists, it's the physicists, and even chemists are all finding evidence for evolution. So it's all laid out that way, as well as the history of life on Earth and how to investigate it yourself.
Does an acceptance of evolution as the explanation for where we came from, does that necessitate that these people who accept it walk away from their religions that teach something different?
I don't think so. There are quite a few prominent biologists who are practicing Christians or Muslims. Kenneth Miller is the author of a little book called Finding Darwin's God. He's a practicing Catholic and also a cellular and evolutionary biologist. And he's found a way to make things work in his life. I've had mentors along the way. I had an undergraduate mentor who was an evolutionary biologist and a practicing Mormon. In fact, he was a Mormon deacon. And as a undergraduate, I asked him, how do you make evolution and your religion fit into your life? And his explanation, his response to me was, I don't let my left hand know what my right hand's doing. He keeps those two parts of his life completely separate. I have found it difficult to have any other view than that we live in a physical reality.
I think many very logical, scientifically minded people who are also devoted to their religion make that they compartmentalize their thinking, and they just say, I'm not going to let my reason and my logic and my science get into that other part of my brain. Right. Is that your observation?
Yes, that's right.
Is that good for society, or do you think something needs to be done to nudge those people over?
I don't see myself as trying to convert anybody, and I
wasn't suggesting that you personally do it.
I don't know.
Maybe Francisco might want to do it.
Well, is that how I remember growing up in the '60s in high school, and was how did you explain writings, for example, in the Christian Bible versus evolution, for example, versus Genesis and creation and so on. And the way that it was understood at the time by religious, some were secular religious teachers, and some were the brothers, was that the Bible. This is in the '60s, and I understand things. The fashion changes. It was the school that I went to, Holy Cross, was a very good scientific school. We learned math and we learned evolution and biology. This is in the '60s, this was before the new creationism revolt. Was that that the Bible was to be understood more as an allegory than it was as a contradiction between the Bible and science. And I think the Pope at one time even mentioned one of the popes at that time mentioned that they would accept, for example, evolution, and also that the sun was the center of the universe and not the earth. And many theologians at the time, I think the fashion has changed now, was that the Bible should not be taken literally, which of course would contradict much of what reason and science has discovered to be true and to work by evidence.
However, at the current time, there are very vocal people out there in this country saying every word in the Bible must be accepted literally, and they have loud voices that that are influencing a lot of people. So, unfortunately, that hasn't gone away yet. But from everything I read, the young people today are far more likely to question what they're being taught in the churches, and in larger numbers have just stopped going to church, which bodes well for the future. And by the time they get to your university level, they may have really become totally enlightened.
There's hope, I guess.
Well, we hope, yes, hope springs eternal.
I think there's hope even among religious people. I mean, I have family members who still are devout churchgoers, but they're very broad-minded and open-minded and liberal-thinking people, other than that.
And so they
see the Bible as a metaphor.
You have not been ostracized from the family, and they're accepted. Have either of you found that either your family or friends are less accepting of you than you would hope?
No, I haven't.
Personally, myself, no. I think most of the people that I know are less religiously fanatics than what you see and hear on TV.
Yes,
it does the religious people. It does a disservice for them to want to believe that the Bible is literally true, because all it does is point out how many contradictions. There are two different stories of Genesis, of who evolved before what, the fish or the plants and so on. So the only way to be a religious Christian is to accept the better parts of the Bible, which is the Jesus part, if they want to believe that.
However, the zealous Christians are this day still trying very hard to get a prayer back into public schools, and they are opposed to gay marriage. And other things, and the basis for their opposition is what's in the Bible. And they have very loud voices. Where are our voices who are saying those people are mistaken? Putting it mildly, we could call them something worse than mistaken. But where's our voice?
That's true.
There's not much of a. You don't hear much. There are no armies for science. Scientists don't have armies and special interest groups that push the belief that Newton was right and that Maxwell's equations are still right hundreds of years later. There's no. I think that rational people are kind of quiet because they understand. If you're scientific and rational, you understand how things work. But there's no psychological fervor like religious people do.
Well, that's true. We see those people as being irrational, and so if we were to start yelling,
emotional,
right.
Yes, but even if what they say is untrue, when you say it enough, a lot of people say, well, then it must be so because they keep telling me that it's so. Well, there is presently a movement to become a little more in your face with secularism and atheism, because we're losing the public relations battle now. We are winning educationally, and as you say, the students come to your class pretty open-minded. But so far as public relations goes, they are way out ahead of us, and so there is a question whether we as secular humanists should be low-key and be part of society and well-liked and accepted, or whether we should get out there and try to fight the battle for greater public acceptance. What do you think? And there are two sides.
Well, I think just making the public aware that there is another way of thinking about the nature of reality is enough.
Well, but so we need to do that.
Yes.
And we need to now conclude this program. It has gone very quickly, but we do thank you folks for watching our show, and we hope you will be with us again next week.